Strength Warehouse presents Go Heavy or Go Home podcast. I am your host, Nate Boley. In this podcast, we talk about strength, fitness, nutrition, and all things Strength Warehouse related. All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast, Season 2. Today we have a guest from outside the gym, Tessa Codina. She's a powerlifter, a coach, a cycle coach, and a bunch of other stuff. I'll let her introduce herself. So welcome to the podcast, Tessa. It's awesome to have you on. I'm just going to give you the microphone a little bit, and you can go into a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm really excited, honestly, and I want to thank you, Nate, for the opportunity. This is literally my first podcast I've ever been invited to.
That's awesome. Well, congrats.
Well, thank you. But I try to challenge myself in that way, and I want to get out there more, so I'm excited. But yeah, I am what you would call a power builder, so okay. I've gone in pursuits of bodybuilding as well as powerlifting. I kind of have to switch back and forth because it's hard to kind of do both. I know badasses who can, but it's a lot to try to do both.
I know I've done it multiple times, and I'm like, you just got to pick one way or the other most of the time. Like, I'm going to do powerlifting for right now. Do bodybuilding right now.
Well, and even my last meet, I learned the hard way, where I even just tried to do a cut to make a weight class. And when you cut, it affects your strength. So you can't be maximally strong when you're also the leanest.
Yes, absolutely. So what other things do you do?
So I am an online nutrition and training coach. Cool. I work a couple of group fitness jobs in town. I kind of like to say I'm the jack of all trades with group fitness. Yeah. So many different certifications. I'm really inspired to find methods of movement that work for people, because some people are never going to want to go to the gym.
It's very true.
Some people are never going to want to. I've had so many, gals, but I've heard from guys too, where it's like, no, it's just so boring. So I'm like, well, it's better that you move. It's better that I motivate you to move, and it's better that you do something.
100%. No, I mean, we get that a lot. I sat down in this office, meeting with multiple people, and they're like, I'm just not a gym guy. And I was like, well, you're in the Pacific Northwest, and I understand we want to be outside all the time. That's why 99% of people live here. It's because there's so many cool things to do. Right?
No, 100%. But it's kind of funny also being here, because I think it's changing now that Bend is growing, but a lot more endurance because, again, our beautiful outdoors.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. So much endurance. People come in and they're like, I don't want to lift heavy weights. I need the endurance. I'm like, it actually pairs up pretty well. If you do not very many reps, more heavy weight, it actually doesn't smoke your body, so you can go do a run. It's been working really well. But great, let's discuss kind of your overall journey in powerlifting and coaching. How did you get into powerlifting in the first place?
So I'll try to make it a long story short, but initially way back in 2012, 2013, I knew I wanted to change. I was like, I look like a stick. I want to be strong. I, noticed the freshman 20, that was around when I was in college, start to kind of come on, and I'm like, I want to look like an athlete. So I went down a few different avenues. Initially, I went to CrossFit because I was like, oh my gosh, CrossFit athletes, they look amazing. They look shredded. Obviously, I was looking at the pros.
Yeah, exactly.
But you don't know. When you're new, you don't know, and you try different things. And through that, at least I learned how to do some main lifts, like squats, deadlifts, Olympic lifts. But I realized soon, as I kind of did more research on my own, I'm like, oh, what I want is the aesthetics. I want to get into bodybuilding. That is probably the most direct way that I can build muscular size and strength. So I got into that, a place called Scott's Training Systems in Arizona. Once I kind of went into the bodybuilding sphere, I learned you can't do shows back to back. It's just very hard on your body to be that lean, and you have to spend a huge season of growth. So that led me into powerlifting, because my coach at Scott's Training System got into powerlifting herself. I'm like, oh, I could see I can do this more. I love competition. I love competing. And because I kind of wanted that same feel, but I couldn't keep bodybuilding, I got into powerlifting.
Cool.
That was probably 2014, 2015. And then from there, I've kind of been back and forth between the bodybuilding shows and powerlifting shows. But more recently, just because it's more fun, I can eat more powerlifting.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I tell everyone, man, I started out bodybuilding too, and I was like, I just love to eat food, and I hate to diet down and be, looking shredded is awesome. The feeling is not good at all.
No, it blows. You think about food constantly. Like, I tell my clients it's the extreme end, but it puts me in their shoes, because for some people, normal dieting feels like that. It's very daunting mentally. It's like you have to get used to having less food. Sometimes you have to go to bed hungry. Sometimes I would try to go to bed early because I'm trying to get to my next meal. I don't recommend it, especially if your relationship with food is not the best.
For sure.
And I will, be so honest that it's maybe not the healthiest thing to do for your body.
I think you're probably right. So take me back to your first meet.
So my first meet was in Arizona. I competed, I believe, in the USAPL.
Okay.
I don't think I did anything like too crazy, but it was really fun, and obviously I enjoyed the process. Like I was telling you earlier, you get very antsy. I'm normally a very anxious person. I have OCD, anxiety. But that, I remember my coach just constantly telling me, sit down, Tessa, because if you get all antsy, you get overwhelmed, you're too fatigued, you won't perform as well. But no, it was really fun. And then I felt like I got hit by a train next day.
Dude, I swear to God, that's how I feel every single time. Like, I just got ran over. Like, seriously, just got ran over. A lot of it, I think, part of that is probably because of the anxiety as well, because your body just gets so smoked. I have the same problem. I would pace back and forth the night before, not sleep at all, wake up, maybe I sleep an hour or two, wake up super early, just be all nervous as hell, and then I would do the powerlifting meet and feel way better after I did it, but I'm like, man, then the next day I wake up and I'm smoked. I look like I got beat up by a train or something. That's cool. Awesome. And then, so how many meets have you done? How long have you been? So you've been started competing. That was 2014 was your first one?
I believe so.
Okay, cool.
2014, 2015, because I did bodybuilding like 2013 spring, and then I immediately got trained, I think, for around 6 to 8 months to get into like my first powerlifting meet.
Cool. And then you moved up to Oregon.
Actually, so a few different things. So I was in Arizona, and then I moved to Texas, and then from Houston, Texas, I moved to here. And I was only in Houston for about like a year and a half.
And it's like 200 degrees there all the time?
Oh yeah, but it was like, going from Arizona to Houston, it's kind of the same. It's like one's really hot and dry, and then one's kind of not as hot, but just super wet and muggy.
Yeah. You were in Phoenix?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought you said Scottsdale for some reason. I was like, isn't Scottsdale kind of in the mountains a little bit?
No, so that would be Flagstaff.
Oh, Flagstaff. Okay.
It would be a lot more like here, actually.
Gotcha. Yeah. I had a friend that moved from there, or moved down there, I should say. And then she sent me pictures of snow. I'm like, what? I didn't know Arizona had snow.
My boyfriend didn't either, being from Texas, and that's where I met, and that's why we kind of moved here, because he was like, I'm done with Houston. Yeah. If you think of any place opposite to Bend, Oregon, Houston, Texas is probably the complete opposite.
I just went to Dallas, God, when was that? January. And it was, same. It was just like flat, dry, completely different than Bend. I was like, flying back in here, and it was like -3 degrees and like so much snow. It was a crazy dynamic, but yeah, that was my only experience with Texas, really, just going to Dallas for a few days. But cool. So how many meets have you competed in?
Gosh, I want to say close to 10. It kind of is a little fuzzy, because I kind of made the newbie mistake, but because my strength was going up so fast, I did like 5 meets in my first year.
Okay, yeah. That's pretty typical, I think, for most newbies.
Newbies, yeah.
They get what's the bug.
Yes.
And they're like, I want to compete. We have a couple of those right now and I know they're going to be listening to this podcast, and they know who they are.
But at some point I did hit a wall, and I'm like, okay, my strength is not progressing. I'm not getting newbie gains from powerlifting anymore. So I was like, now I got to take longer breaks. So now I go, gosh, I'm the opposite. I take almost a year or longer in between meets.
I think as you age in your training age too, you are unable to do that many. Like if I did 2 or 3 meets a year, I'd be broken. Absolutely broken. At a higher level, you just can't do it. So I might do 2 a year, but they're really far spread out, like 6-8 months in between each other. Just because if I do them back to back, there's no way I can do it.
Maybe if like I'm getting competitive, but I'm not gonna push it until like, I can hit these numbers for nationals, or I'm invited to a specific event. But for now, it's just like 1 a year is good.
Yeah. Have you ever been to nationals or anything like that, or worlds, or invited to a meet?
So yeah, it was earlier on. The requirements are just like people are just show up strong, and they up their requirements. I feel every year.
Yes.
But in 2016, I did the US APL Nationals in Florida.
Oh, cool.
That was a fun experience.
Yeah, where was it?
Orlando.
Okay.
So I got to go the day before. I went to a water park.
Cool.
Maybe it wasn't smart, but it helped me to decompress, and it was fun.
Take some anxiety off.
Yeah. And that was so fun. So it's like when now I looked at the new totals after, now getting back into it, I'm like, man, now I have a long way to go.
Right. I've never been to nationals. They always seem to be way too far away, but I did Worlds this last year.
That's awesome.
They had a USPA Worlds in Eugene. And I got a ref.
Easy peasy to
Yeah, so I
go
refed
there.
for 3 days and then competed the second to last day. And then they're like, you want to ref again on the last day? I'm like, no. I was like, I am smoked. I gotta go. Plus, I have other things in life that I'm worried about. So I've already done my stuff. But that meet wasn't nearly as good as I wanted it to be. I broke my foot halfway in between.
I remember that.
Yeah, I was like halfway in between my training, and I dropped a 25 pound or a 25 kilo plate on it. Broke my metatarsal on my left foot, and I was out for 7 weeks. No benching, no squatting, no deadlifting. I could bench. My bench got really good, but I couldn't squat or deadlift. 3 weeks to get back into it before competition.
Didn't you post a video where it shows where you dropped on your security camera?
Yeah. I still have it somewhere. It's hilarious, but it hurt so bad. But I had to post it because it was just one of those bonehead moments. I was like, I cannot believe that happened. I've always told people, like, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. Sunday afternoon, I'm done with the deadlifting, putting the weight, I had like 3 plates left to put up back on the rack. And it just slipped and bam, right on my foot. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened.
Oh, that's the worst.
Yeah, it's much better now. And it wasn't broken when I competed, but it was freshly healed, right? And so I could still feel it a little bit when I was, especially in my squat, go down and, I could feel it in my foot. I'm like, is it just going to break? My foot's going to break in half.
Oh, geez. So you had to probably still be cautious.
I did a little bit, even though I actually PR'd my squat from my knee surgery, I should say. I had knee surgery in 2019, and I've just never been able to get back to where I was. But I did PR it since then. That was a PR. And I was like, I broke my foot, took 6 weeks off, and PR'd. Like, what the heck?
That's badass.
Yeah, it was awesome. That was pretty awesome. But okay, so you competed in 10. You went to nationals and for USAPL. When was your first USPA meet?
I think here, because I noticed depending upon what region you're in, like Arizona's more USAPL.
Sure.
It seems like Pacific Northwest, there's a lot more USPA versus USAPL. So that was kind of interesting to see, like, it's just differences between regions.
Sure. There was, back in the day, I'll see, when did you move here?
2019.
Okay, 2019. Yeah, right around that time, we held a USAPL meet in 2020. The February of 2020.
That makes sense.
Yeah, right before everything happened. That was our very first meet that Megan and we co-hosted a meet from NorCal Powerlifting, which is a new powerlifting federation coming out of California, in 2019, and then we hosted the USAPL one here in 2020. And I was already way into USAPL. USPA.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let me hold a meet yet. They were just like, oh, you're too young. You're too young into the referee world. So I was a referee already. And after that meet, they called me up and they're like, hey, you want to host a meet? I'm like, yep. So just went over and started doing the USPA. But USAPL was phasing out right around that 2019 area. Oh. They were bigger than USPA in like the 13, 14, 15, 16 area. Hardly any USPA meets at all, and then it's built up and took over the whole region. I don't think there's any USAPL meets right now at all in the Pacific Northwest.
There's I kind of look back and forth, because for me, I don't really go off of a federation. It's kind of more for timing. If the timing is right and it makes sense, there's not too many differences that I've noticed. Like the competitions basically go the same.
Sure.
I think that you judge maybe USAPL for certain meets will be harsher, but when you judged, you were very okay, you got to get lower, you look in detail. So I think it's just honestly who runs it too, how strict you are.
100%.
But I think it's better. I would rather a meet director be strict than too light, because then I'm pushed a bit more to work on my form and to work on my technique.
That was a really cool thing. Somebody told me I was reffing for my first international referee. I'm now an international referee as of December. So my first meet as an international referee was February over in Eugene. And one of the lifters came up to me and they're like, I've been refereeing these people for like years and years and years. And they're like, we really love you as a referee when you're on the platform. I was like, well, why? And they're like, because we know when we get a red light, we know it's because I didn't do it right. And if there's other referees, and I don't want to say anybody's name because I think they're all great referees, but they're alluding to that maybe they might get a red light.
Yeah.
It might not have been an actual fault of the lifter. It might have been like a judgment call or something. I haven't seen that, and I very much so like am very open with all the referees, and I'm like, hey, why did you give that red light? Or I want to know why, not because I'm saying it was a bad a bad call. I just want to know why. So maybe I missed something, or maybe or whatever. But you definitely don't want to like tell another referee that their call was bad because you can't see their vantage point, and you don't know what they're looking at. So.
Yeah.
But anyway, I thought that was really cool. I felt really good about that. I was like, okay, cool. I think I'm a good ref.
Yeah,
so.
I would rather have a stricter ref and be like, nope, you weren't low enough.
Yeah.
Nope, you didn't break parallel.
Yep.
Because if you go to a national meet, then you're set up for failure.
Mm-hmm. Or worlds, yeah. And the world, the nationals and the world, they are not gonna give you anything. Yeah. And I feel bad for somebody. It's like they're brand new meet. So they're brand new to the meet, brand new lifter, and it's their first one. And you're like, I feel like I'm just going to give it to them just because I don't want them to bomb out, even if they're really close. And then you just go up and say, hey, look, I didn't want you to bomb out. You're not going in for any records right now.
Yeah.
But just so you know, you got to improve on this. Because you definitely don't, especially if a brand new lifter, you don't want to like give them a bad taste so they never come back, because the powerlifting sport is so awesome. And people don't want to fail. They do not want to fail. They don't want to get red lights. And I don't want to give red lights, but you got to. You got to. But, all right, cool. So you've done one of ours. I think it was Outlaw Open, you said?
Yeah.
And that was 2022?
2022, because it took me, we can go in a little more detail, but it took a couple of years after pandemic to get back. But
yeah, what happened then?
So I like to be very open and honest. We kind of want to get past it because it's been a little while, but honestly, I have dealt with anxiety and OCD since I was diagnosed at 10.
Yeah.
And it manifests in different ways, and especially when I'm under high stress, it gets much worse. I don't get good sleep. It gets much worse. And in being in a traumatic phase in everyone's life, right? Yes. I just broke down. Thoughts, I get intrusive thoughts. If anyone knows what that is, I don't wish it on my worst enemy, because it's my mom has a great analogy for it. It's like a broken record that keeps skipping, and it's thoughts that just eat at the core of who you are.
That's hard.
And it sucks. And it took a while. It took once it started to phase out, once I could get back into training, but it put me in the shoes of a lot of my clients who fall off, and they fall off hard.
Yeah. And they're embarrassed to come back.
Yes, I gained 40 to 50 pounds. I lost a lot of my muscular strength. I lost a lot of my physique because I went from competing in 2019 that June till the next June looking totally different, not feeling good in my own skin.
Yeah.
And I look back on it now and I've come out the other end, but it just took a lot of self-work. It took a lot of patience. And when you're in different phases in your life, and I tell this to my clients, that timeline is going to look a lot different.
Sure. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's really hard to do. I know I've had to deal with some of that stuff myself. I've never heard of the words intrusive thoughts, but that's exactly what it is. Things that just you cannot get away from.
Yeah.
And they just haunt you, and it's scary. So yeah, thanks for. I think a lot of people probably get that don't really know how to deal with that. But for people that have dropped off, like you said, and they have bad anxiety about coming back,
oh yeah,
it's actually I never want anybody to fall off, but comeback stories are amazing.
Yeah.
Right, and it's hey, something happened, I screwed up, or whatever. Coming back, and nobody's going to judge you for that. They're going to judge you. It's probably in a good way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everybody judges everybody, but it's not going to be oh, you turd, you went off the wagon and lost, gained 40 pounds. No, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry that happened to you. Thanks for coming back, and let's take the next step, right? Okay, so in 2022, I remember you talking to me a little bit about it. You're like, I'm a little nervous about it.
Yeah.
Coming back into the meet, and you had a great meet.
Oh, I was actually shook with how, like, I think I got the best dots, right?
I think you did, yeah.
For a female lifter.
Yeah, did you get the best lifter?
Yeah, I got the best lifter award. I'm like, what's going on?
How did this happen?
People are very collaborative. People are very awesome.
100%.
And everyone cheers everyone on.
I agree. Actually, I haven't really had very many competitions where I've had somebody in the meet that was in my same weight class and age class that were competing in the same strength. That happened for the second time back in June, and I was kind of worried about it, right? So I started looking at this guy. I'm like, hey, he's opening higher than me. I was like, oh, who is this? I'm looking up his Instagram. I'm like, son of a gun. I was like, he's stronger than me. I was like, I'm going to lose. I even called Megan, my wife, and I was like, I came up here to win. I'm going to lose. This guy's way stronger than me. I ended up taking the meet by 1 pound. I beat him by 1 pound. And him and I are now friends. He actually comes to the gym and works out, and we decided to collaborate, and we're like, he's a really strong guy, and I've been helping him on his stuff, and he's been helping me on stuff. And when we come back to the platform together, he actually beat me in November because we both competed at Worlds, and he beat me, but I had a broken foot, so I'm coming back for you. But anyway, yeah, so it's fun collaboration. It actually lit a fire under me. I was so stoked. Like, once I got it past my head, like, it doesn't matter, I'm just going to do what I'm going to do. I ended up winning. And then anyway, after that, we like shook each other's hands, we exchanged phone numbers, and started talking about lifting. We've had him at the gym several times, and yeah, it's really cool. That's the spirit of powerlifting, in my opinion.
100%.
So, yeah.
Like, when I went to Seattle for my last competition for USAPL, that's how it felt, where it was just nice to be in a different environment. And I got my ass handed to me in Seattle, but I wanted that to kind of happen because after winning the Best Lifter Award, I'm like, I want to be kind of, I know, like, a lot of people don't like this, like, or I try to embrace, like, oh no, I'm not the best. I need to go back and workshop. And that meet was almost the exact opposite, but there was a couple of reasons. I cut all the way up until that meet. I cared more about making my weight class, and I accepted that. But it was nice to see just within my weight class, and even the weight class below, like, how strong some people are in different regions.
I know. It's crazy. I've been to some meets and I'm like, where do these freaks come from? What kind of stuff are they doing that I'm not doing, you know? That's crazy. Yeah. So what's in your next, do you have some future competitions that you want to go to?
Yes. So one, at least I know for sure, is your Summer Strength Wars in July.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have the sign up yet, but as soon as that goes up.
July 13th is the date we picked.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah. So I'll get the sanction out here in the next couple weeks. We're just waiting for the Outlaw Open one to like kind of close up. It's got like a week and a half left until it closes up, and I put that one. It just makes it so much easier where I know where like sign-ups are and all that type of stuff. Get everybody out of my Excel spreadsheet, and then
focus on the next thing.
And then focus on the next one, exactly. Otherwise, last year we did it. We had them both going at one. Actually, we had 3 going at one time, and it was such a pain in the butt. It was like just, oh, this person's over here, this person's over here, and
on top of your other responsibilities.
Yeah, it's just a nightmare, yeah. And luckily I have a really awesome person, a computer person that has been taking all that from me. Like, I just send them all the registrations and they categorize it all for me, and it makes a huge difference for sure.
Nice.
I'm not trying to worry about it for 6 months and then taking emails and people being like, I need to change my weight class right now. I'm like, no, you don't need to change your weight class right now.
You can do it later.
Yeah. As for most local meets, I don't know if anybody knows this, but it just, whatever weight, you could sign up for the 220 kilo class and come in at 65, right?
Yeah.
Now, you don't want to do that, but if you go to nationals or worlds, you qualify for that in a specific weight class, and you cannot go to a different one.
They're way more strict.
Yeah, they're way more strict. And because it's like a logistical nightmare when you have 5 days and each day is a different weight class.
Yes.
And then somebody comes in heavier or lighter, and you're like, well, the lighter people went yesterday, so you're in trouble. You can lift, but you're a guest lifter in the meet. You're not going to be able to do anything.
Oh, interesting. Because I luckily, my national meet, I like did it well within my weight class. I didn't have to stress, but I know like there's certain cutoffs that, like you said, could be the day before or push you to the day after. Yeah,
but if you're how it goes in USPA, I'm not really super familiar with USAPL, but they do like lighter on Thursdays and then the heavier on Fridays. And so if you come in Thursday morning to weigh in, but you're too light or you're too heavy or whatever, like if you're too heavy, you might be able to go to the next day, depending on the meet director. But if you come in and they're like, hey, the people are lifting right now and you're weighing in too light, so you can't make it to the next weight class. And so it can be a logistical nightmare.
Well, if you've flown and paid for all of these things,
it can be very devastating. So, and they're pretty open about it. They're like, hey, you can't change weight classes. Especially, you have to have a specific total for that to qualify for that weight class. So it just makes it just a big difference. So don't do that. Don't do that.
Don't do it.
I've cut a few times, but only like a few pounds. I cut one time 2 years ago now. I think it was 2 years ago. 16 and a half pounds in 3 days.
Oh
and
my God.
I tore my quad doing it. It was a water cut. And I'm sure that's what happened. It was a stage 2 separation, where basically the muscle fibers just come apart. No like tendons snapping or anything like that.
Was that just dehydration, basically?
I think it was, yeah. I literally just could not get back to where I was. I even went and got an IV. I was drinking like a gallon of water. I was just peeing so much that I just didn't think I could keep the water on. It was just too dehydrated. Not enough time to get back into the cells and stuff. But yeah, it was pretty devastating. Cool. So let's go back into, have you noticed any big changes since you started in 2014 to competition nowadays?
Oh yeah, like I definitely have, because I have that focus on hypertrophic training or bodybuilding physique. I definitely have changed my physique. I mean, it's been like 10 years ish. We'll knock off maybe a couple because of the pandemic, but. I used to be like SpongeBob SquarePants, where I was straight from my shoulders all the way to my hips. Just a square, no natural curves. I wish I would have done like I know there's, discrepancies in certain body fat and muscle testing, but I wish I would have done a test like way back when to see how much muscle I put on, because, now I have much bigger lats. I mean, I'm everywhere. It has completely changed. Hamstrings, quads, glutes. Probably more recently, I've seen, since getting back after my mental health collapsing, like now that I've been really focusing at least 3 to 4 days of training, like my shoulders have finally built up where I'm like, hey, now I got some mini 3D delts, because you got on my case about the squat, and because I failed the squat a couple times at my last meet, working to get deeper ranges of motion. I always tell my clients this too, where it's like, if you can't go up in weight, can you make the movement look better? Can you 100%.
Get There's always
deeper?
Something you can do.
Yes.
Make it better.
100%.
Yeah. And if you can't get deeper with the weight you have, you should not go up in weight.
No.
Because it's not right. It's just going to amplify the problem. That's great. I wish I would have done some kind of, I was the exact opposite. I graduated high school at 125 pounds.
Wow.
And now I was almost 220 just a little bit ago. So I've added almost 100 pounds on my body weight. And just absolutely ridiculous amounts of muscle for sure. There's some body fat as well, but we're not going down that road right now. We're just lifting weights and having a good time.
Part of the process.
Yeah. So what about competitions? Like, have you noticed anything in the sport changing since your first one?
Oh yeah, like the requirements, just like I mentioned earlier, just go up and up and up. And it's not a bad thing, but it's like, oh dang, it's gonna take me now probably a few years before I can compete nationally. Like when I first started, it was like a year or so or two, and then I'm like, because it was so new back in like 2014, 16, especially for the female category.
Yes, yep. My first meet was down in California, actually, at Mark Bell's meet, and in 2009. When I started, it was everybody was wearing a squat suit, everybody's wearing a bench shirt, all that type of stuff. That's how my first powerlifting meet went. And now it's all completely raw. There was never any drug-tested federations back then. It was all just open, do whatever you're going to do. And so it's been a huge change since I've been since my very first powerlifting meet. The one thing I would say is, so you had said something about like the two different federations, the two biggest federations, so USAPL, which is technically called USA Powerlifting America, I think it's called now.
Yeah.
It technically like kind of folded and started a new one. They use one bar, which is a power bar. And USPA can use up to 3 bars. So they have a squat bar, which is a 25 kg. It feels like a freight train on your back. You probably wouldn't feel it, or not feel it, but you wouldn't use it because they only go up to like, usually flight B and up will use it.
Oh, the bigger
bigger people and the bigger, heavier weights. And then they use a power bar for the bench, and then they use a deadlift bar, which is a specifically longer bar that's designed to bend more from the floor.
And isn't it a little more gnarly on the hands?
It's got a little bit more gnarling on it, yeah. And so the USAPL or Powerlifting America or whatever they call themselves now, they use just one bar for the whole thing. And so there is a tactical difference, especially with the deadlift bar. Being able to like pull more slack out of it to get a little bit of a more advantageous pull, more of like a spring-loaded effect coming off the floor versus the bar is just, if you have 4 plates on the bar, they all come up at once. With a power bar, with a deadlift bar, kind of like the inside plates come up a little bit first, and then the rest of them come up, depending on how much weight you have on the bar. So there's a little bit of difference in that, and other than that, the rules are pretty close. I think they all follow each other on that respect.
I think the other thing was like you don't have to have a shirt on in USPA. I think like
so
for
USPA
deadlifting.
you have to have in USPA you have to have a shirt on for squat and bench.
Yes.
Because of the bar touching, they don't want a bunch of people touching.
No. Yeah.
Which is
Same.
doesn't make any sense to me because everybody touches the bar with their hands.
Yeah.
And I'm like, does it
matter?
I mean, I guess we're just like splitting hairs here, but
yeah,
everybody touches the bar with their hands, and it doesn't make any sense to me why their skin on their back can't touch the bar, but
who knows?
It is what it is. They made the rules. I'm not the federation owner. They all have that rule, I think.
Okay.
Except for USAPL, I don't think you can. You have to have a shirt on with your deadlift too.
Yes, that's what it is. Is
gotcha.
Like that was the only other thing that I remember being different, and it's like whatever.
Yeah, this is what it is. Cool, awesome. So, you have any personal aspirations? Where do you see yourself in the future of powerlifting?
Yeah, so as far as powerlifting, like I am playing the long game.
Yeah.
Just because, you know, I'm not trying to be negative, but will I ever be the top of the top? I don't know. But if I can outlast a lot of my peers and I can keep my body healthy and I can keep competing when you're in masters, not to say it's easier to qualify, but usually as you get older, you know, like you lose a little bit of strength, but it doesn't mean that you necessarily can't stay strong. But I'm just going to see where it takes me. My next goal, I guess, for powerlifting would be enough to qualify for a national meet. I do need to kind of go back and look at the numbers again, but hopefully that could happen in the next 5 years.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I think you're right. I'm submasters, and it took me. I competed almost all the way through open, and I never even came close to a record. My first year in submasters, I beat records like 2, like right away.
Nice.
And now going into, I'll be 39 next year, and then the next year I'm into masters, actual masters, and those numbers are, if I keep healthy,
yes,
I'm gonna like break the crap out of those records. So we'll see. I think, and what you said was absolutely key. Longevity in the sport. The last person to lift in life is going to be the winner.
Yeah. If I lift when I'm 70, but I can pull over 200, I'm probably going to make some crazy records.
You're going to win for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like I've had some people that are like, I want my record right now. And they'll do anything to get there. And I'm like, cool. But guess what? Records are going to get broken. And especially nowadays, records get broken every single weekend.
Yes.
Every single weekend. So it's like, do you want to have a record now that's going to get broken in 6 months? Or have records that are going to last for like long periods of time? Or continue to break records for a long period of time without breaking yourself? I've just seen so many people get seriously injured trying to break a specific record, and they're out of the game forever.
And they're not even like, it's like a huge, like I've seen people do huge jumps and bomb.
Yeah, same. I've seen so many of that. It's insane. It's too bad. It's really too bad. That comes down to like having a good coach.
Yes.
Most good coaches are not going to allow their lifters to do that. Mostly for the lifter's sake, but also because it makes them look terrible, right? If their lifters all bomb out because of specific, strategies and stuff like that. But good coaches are going to be like, no, we're in this for the long game. We don't want you to hurt yourself. Just inch the bar up each time. So, and you have a coach?
Yes, so he's actually with the company I work for called Macros Inc. He lives in He lives in Canada.
Cool.
His name is Colin, and he's great because what he will do for every meet that I do is he'll do like an A plan and a B plan.
Cool.
If I'm feeling thrashed, if I don't feel as confident with a certain lift, I can stay with the A plan. If I'm feeling awesome, I crushed it that first lift, the B plan. But it's not such a big jump that it wouldn't be doable.
Yeah. They
still make sense, but I kind of like that. And I have a client that's going to compete in July, and I think I want to do the same. It's like, if you're feeling good, let's go with this. If you're not feeling good, if you're feeling nervous, if the first one you kind of failed, then let's kind of take it back a bit, because the most important thing is getting numbers on the board. If you bomb all of your lifts, so for instance, if you did your squats, which come first, and you bomb that, there's no way you're going to place it all.
Nope, you're not going to get a total at all. So our computer lady, which was a lifter of ours for a long time, and she has helped us coaching and stuff, she does, which we've adopted, it's a frowny face, a smiley face, and then a throw the table over. So you have three things, right? The frowny face is stuff's going bad, I'm nervous, whatever, I don't feel good. Smiley face is this is the plan we're supposed to be on. And throw the table over is everything feels great, we're making PRs, let's jump up a little bit more. So it's really similar, but just a little bit more on the goofy side of it. As you can see, my fun meter today.
No, I love it. Because that helps clients to, like, you know, especially general pop people or people who are new. It kind of gives them a bit more avenues that they can go down. 100%.
Right on. All right, so training styles. What's your favorite training style you've done?
You know, I really, because now that I've had experience in bodybuilding and powerlifting, I like to go through mesocycles of both, where it's like I have my season where I grow, where I'm like, dang, I'm building up my shoulders, I'm building up my back. And then I change over to, you know, get training more strength work, getting down to my maxes. I like kind of switching back and forth because it keeps me interested. I don't get bored. There's something to look forward to, which is why I love competition. And, you know, bodybuilding, again, you can't keep doing. I know so many bikini chicks that will do show after show and they never grow. But kind of cycling back and forth between them helps me to have an objective, have something outside of myself, and to be able to stay interested.
Awesome. Staying interested is a huge thing for sure. I'm just really stubborn, so I just stick with the same thing all the time. I mean, I'm more strictly powerlifting, but I do like hypertrophy stuff as well. So I'm kind of on the power building side a little bit, where I'm doing.
I mean, all powerlifting plans have a phase.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. But I just like lifting heavy weights. It's my favorite.
It's fun.
Which is actually what I'm going to be squatting here in about 15 minutes or so. Pretty heavy today. I'm not super heavy, but 390, 400. We'll see.
That's pretty good.
It's pretty heavy.
Heavy.
It's not where I'm usually. I mean, where I have been in the past. I'm still like holding on to my 550 squat that I did a long time ago, and that's kind of like my gauge to where I want to be. But if I could just get to the 501 mark on the platform, I would have a record. So. We're gunning for that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're seeing. I don't have any plans on any meets right now. Just kind of building and trying to rehab the knee as much as possible, and then just keep on going from there. But cool. Do you have any last words, Tessa, for the listeners out there? And after that, you can let them know where they can find you, so they can follow you in your journey, in your powerlifting journey, in your bodybuilding journey.
Yeah, so, you know, even coming from my background of dealing with mental health, is that when it comes to having longevity with anything, whether it's you're trying to be a runner, you're trying to be a power lifter, you're just trying to have better health and wellness goals, that you're not always going to be motivated. And I think it's important to push through the bad days. Like, I literally had days, I'm a very open person, where I was so anxious that I would cry before going to the gym. But if I never pushed past that discomfort and I never got back into regular training and I always made excuses, I would not be even where I'm at today, where I feel a lot better, a lot more confident in my skin. Now I see like positive momentum. So, you know, try to work through the struggle. Obviously not working through injuries necessarily, but like how Nate did. He was adaptable. He did his upper body if he couldn't do his lower body. And I think that's another key thing, is learn to be adaptable. You know, shiz is going to happen in life. You can't always control it, but you can control your actions, and you can control like what you do going forward.
And how you think about it.
Yes.
For sure. Yeah, mindset is absolutely key. Those are great words. Yeah, thank you for that. And how can they find you?
So for now, I'm more so active on Instagram, Tessa, TESSA _ Codina, CODINA. I'm also active on Facebook. I'm working on, you know, my skills of self-development. Soon, I want to have a YouTube, but for now, those are kind of the main things.
Yeah, going to be a podcast YouTube, or just YouTube informational?
Just informational, vlogging, you know, daily life stuff, and we'll see where it goes.
Right on. Well, we'll be following you and giving you some tips and stuff as we go along, and hopefully you can get that going here real shortly.
Sweet. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for being on. All right, guys. Thank you for being on. This 40-minute podcast is awesome. I'm going to leave you with the same way I leave you for every podcast this season, and that is success is not final, failure is not fatal, and it is the courage to continue that counts, and everything you want in life is on the other side of your fear. So get out there and take some action. All right, guys. Talk to you later. Thanks for joining us on this epic journey of strength. If you liked this episode, please leave us a review and share with a friend. To stay connected, hit that subscribe button. All right, until next time, go heavy or go home.